UFC 328 Hamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland is tomorrow. I'm going to go through the entire card, give you guys the notes and style of each fighter, as well as my best bets and prediction for every single fight. If you guys want the full betting recap, fast forward to this part of the video. Let's get into it. All right, kicking off with the first fight, Clayton Carpenter versus Jose Ochoa. Clayton Carpenter, he started his career off 5-0 on the regional scene, gets a win on the Contender Series, enters the UFC. He's 2-2 so far. Won his first two, has lost his last two. Most recently got finished in the first round via Kimura. His style, he's a former jiu-jitsu world champion. I think two-time gi and no gi world champion, and it shows up in his game. That's where he looks to take the fight, is to the mat and use his jiu-jitsu. Really high-level stuff, great submission ability. On the feet, though, he's really underdeveloped. He's at a good gym, and he's getting better and better for sure, but the stand-up is where he definitely lacks, and unless he's able to take the fight to the mat and utilize his BJJ, he just he definitely looks a little bit lost. His opponent, Jose Ochoa, he's a shoot box fighter, went 7-0 on the regional scene, debuts in the UFC with a loss to Lonnie Kavanaugh, then goes 1-1 in his most recent fight was a loss to Asu Almabayev, who, if you look at these guys' losses, he's losing to elite competition, two top 10 guys in the flyweight division. He's still my boy. He's lost twice, but he's super fun to watch, and he's still one of my favorite prospects at flyweight. His style of Jose Ochoa, he's a very clean striker, throws excellent combos, nasty body kicks, and has really rare KO power, especially for a flyweight. He has a good grappling base of his own, not necessarily that of Clayton Carpenter, but he also has the ability to find submissions. He has plenty of submission wins throughout his career, can scramble really well. My prediction for the fight, I do think Jose Ochoa will knock him out in round two. I think Ochoa is going to use the takedown defense scrambling ability to force exchanges on the feet. Not necessarily that it's going to be a stand-up fight, but I think he will force enough exchanges to eventually win one and find the knockout because he has that rare knockout power for a flyweight. Carpenter's a very strong grappler, though. His path to victory is definitely using his BJJ, and it can happen for sure. I do worry about Jose Ochoa. Such a large part of his game are those front kicks and body kicks that I don't know if he's just going to be able to freely let them go as much as he wants. We saw it against Asu Almabayev. I think he's probably a stronger overall MMA grappler than Clayton Carpenter is, but it still gave Jose Ochoa problems where you can't just let those go because then they get caught, things happen, you ended up giving up takedowns. So there's definitely a path to victory for Clayton Carpenter. But like I said, I like Jose Ochoa a lot. And I think he's really underrated, especially because he's 1-2 in the UFC, but nobody really takes a look at who those two losses are to. So yeah, like I said, I think he'll use his takedown defense, force some exchanges, get a knockout. His money line at minus 180 is really good. And I take the Clayton Carpenter over on takedowns. Despite everything that I'm saying, I think he'll find takedowns and Jose Ochoa will be able to scramble and get up out of those, and it'll just kind of be like more back and forth as opposed to Carpenter taking him down and controlling him for the rest of the round. Second fight of the card, Baisangor Susarkayev versus Jordan Santos. Baisangor trains out of Kill Cliff FC. He's also been documented a bunch being like at the garage or whatever with Arman and Hamzat. Went 8-0 on the regional scene, gets a round one finish on the Dana White Contender Series via like oblique front kick. It was a weird finish on the Contender Series, but then 4 days later he debuts at UFC 319 against, I think it was Eric Nolan. Almost gets finished in the first round of that fight, comes back, wins via submission there. And then most recently, UFC 322 faced Eric McConico, knocked him out in the third round. His style, he's a really well-rounded guy for sure, has strong kickboxing, but he always seems to be fighting down to his opponents. And I don't know if that's like a bad habit of his or if he's just genuinely not that great. And but he had this weird lackadaisical energy in his most recent fight with Eric McConico. His biggest weakness definitely is his head movement and striking defense. It's getting better. He's 24, 25, 26, whatever he is. He's younger and he's getting better, but that's definitely his biggest weakness. His opponent, Jordan Santos, trains out of American Top Team, went 9-1 in the regional scene, gets a win on the Contender Series, 1-1 in the UFC so far. His style, just more of a scrappy fighter, gets hit a lot, but has a pretty good chin, just got a lot of dog in him, honestly. He's not a ton to go off of there. Like that's just kind of who he is as a fighter. My prediction for the fight, I do think Susarkayev will win via decision. Susarkayev is just not worth betting on, really value wise. He's minus 1100, which like that's fine. I think Santos decision at plus 1400 is a really good high value straight because Susarkayev is I'm not saying I like smell a fraud check coming or anything. I definitely don't think DeJordan Santos will win, but I think the likelihood of him stealing a decision isn't that crazy. I'm not super high on Susurkayev just because, like I said, he tends to always fight down to his opponents. He is his first fight against Eric Nolan, he almost got knocked out in the first round. Eric McConaughey was having his moments against him at UFC 322. Um, he's just got to be himself. Susurkayev just has to be himself and take the fight seriously, bring it from the second the bell rings. He should be fine in this one, but he is being pushed big time by the UFC. This is his third numbered event. This man has not sniffed a fight night or even the apex. So the UFC clearly wants us to know about this guy. And we'll see. Like I said, I think he'll get it done by decision, but not worth really value-wise betting on. Next up, we got Pat Sabatini versus William Gomez. Pat Sabatini, he went 13-3 on the regional scene, became a champ in CFFC. He's 8-2 since joining the UFC. His most recent loss actually came to Diego Lopez. But recently, he's pieced together a nice 3-fight win streak. His style, he's probably the most underrated grappler in the entire featherweight division. He's so crafty and relentless, has tons of submission ability. Stand up isn't anything special, but it definitely serves as a good tool, to provide him unique entries and really open up his grappling. His opponent, William Gomez, he went 10-2, came a champ on the regional scene in France, signs with the UFC. He's 5-1 with 4 split decisions in 6 fights and only 1 finish win. His style, he's absolutely huge for a featherweight. He's 6 foot and he's not like lengthy 6 foot. Like he's actually filled out. Like he's filled out throughout his chest and everything like that. Like he's not some twig. Now he's listed at 6 foot, so I mean I don't know if he actually is 6 foot, but he's definitely big. Regardless, he does great work in the clinch. Has really solid kickboxing. Pushes a really good pace, but struggles to win with emphasis or fight with a ton of urgency. Even when he is down on a scorecard or knowingly down or when he's down in a round, there never really seems to be any sort of push to try and do more. He kind of just remains at his pace and fights at his pace regardless, no matter what, throughout the entire fight. And I think that's what's led him to having 4 split decisions in 6 fights in the UFC. My prediction for the fight, I do think Pat Sabatini will win via unanimous decision. Sabatini moneyline at minus 210 is great value, and the fight to go the distance at minus 140 is even better value. Honestly, Gomez has been taken down plenty of times. He's displayed good scrambling ability in the past, has shown takedown defense at times. I just don't think he's going to be able to do anything against with how relentless Pat Sabatini is. And he's good enough on the feet to not really just kind of get schooled by William Gomez. So I like Pat Sabatini a lot. I think he's a super underrated guy, and I think he will get a unanimous decision victory in this one. Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. This is a sneaky, this is a pretty good one. The UFC know what they were doing, sneaking this one in there. Roman Kopylov, he went undefeated on the regional scene, became a champ in Fight Nights Global, started off his UFC career 0-2, had 4 straight KOs, became a ranked fighter, struggled recently. His last 2 fights have both been losses to Paulo Costa and RoboCop, so good competition regardless. His style, he's a kickboxer with some of the best high kicks in the entire sport. His athleticism and the way he's able to use his legs is phenomenal. Recently, he's looked at very timid and struggled to really enter a groove in his most recent fights, especially the Costa fight. He had some moments late, but the RoboCop fight especially just seemed like he couldn't get anything going. His opponent, Marco Tulio, he went 10-1 on the regional scene, gets a shot on Dana White Contender Series, beats actually Yusri Belgarui, but gets no contract, goes to LFA, wins 2 more fights, then gets back on the Contender Series, gets a win, gets awarded a contract there. He's now 2-1 in the UFC. He lost his most recent fight to Christian Leroy Duncan. He also trains out of Shute Box as well. His style, he's a really crafty kickboxer with a ton of weapons at his disposal. Mixes up strikes so well, incorporates spinning attacks. He loves the spinning back or spinning body kick, step in elbows. Just really unpredictable fighter he is. Pushes a great pace. Will get overzealous at times, and that's how we saw him lose the Christian Leroy Duncan fight. Got a little bit overzealous. I don't want to say wasn't paying attention, but gets caught with a spinning elbow. But overall, like I said, a really crafty guy that just uses a lot of different things. My prediction for the fight, I do think Roman Kopylov will win the round 3 KO. Like I said, this is going to be a fun one for sure. It's really 50-50. I guess the thing that I've kind of gone back to, outside of Yusri Belgarui, who Marco Tulio fought a while ago, when Belgary was newer to MMA, the wins that he has are not great, and he didn't look very good at all against Christian Leroy Duncan. It's just the overall competition's been really questionable. And so, his best win outside of Belgarui is Trayshawn Gore. Even though Kopylov has struggled recently, it's been against really good competition. And so, I think Kopylov will look cleaner, and, maybe we'll see a signature head kick KO late in the fight. But if this fight does go to a decision, which it's got a pretty good chance of it, um, the volume of Tulio will definitely help him as well. So Tulio's path to victory is definitely just staying unpredictable like he does and keeping that volume on. And Roman Kopylov just has to be clean, and I think he can do that, and I think he will. He's the underdog here at plus 160, which I think is really good value. But the fight to go over 1.5 rounds at minus 210 is probably my favorite bet here. The unction, but I guess part one of this entire event, because it's not even the only unction on the card. Jim Miller versus Jared Gordon. Jim Miller, he's the UFC vet. He has the most fights, the most wins in the entire UFC. He's 42 years old, but has been very win-loss, especially recently as we reach what should be the end of his career, hopefully. He's been an above-average fighter for the majority of his career, but he has not fought in over a year. His most recent fight was a loss to Chase Hooper. His style, he's scrappy but slow on the feet. He looks to take the fight to the ground more, where he can use his submission ability. Still not overly elite on the ground really anymore. We saw Chase Hooper really kind of dominate him on the feet. He's slowing down a lot in terms of skill, but the passion is still definitely there. Jared Gordon, he's also an experienced UFC guy. He's 9-7, being really win-loss as well. He's had competitive fights with good UFC fighters, Nasrat Haqparast and most notably Paddy Pimblett, somebody that he arguably could have beaten. But he's just never really been good enough to win either of them. His style, he's a very dirt average fighter. No glaring weakness, no glaring strengths. Looks sustained in exchange, but just doesn't really have that KO threat. My prediction for the fight, I do think Jared Gordon will win this one by decision. Not a lot really to say about this one here, other than I think Jim Miller's slowing down a lot, and I think Jared Gordon is also reaching the end, but has a lot more gas left in the tank than Jim Miller. What we're going to see from Jim Miller is relatively unknown, just because he's only fighting, once a year really, and he continually is getting a lot older. So it's unpredictable. Gordon at minus 310 makes sense. And then Jim Miller under on significant strikes. I just don't see him really being able to do anything here. Jared Gordon's not great, but like I said, I think he's just got a lot more left than Jim Miller at this point. Next up, we got Grant Dawson versus Mateusz Rebecki. Grant Dawson, he comes into the UFC 11-1, got a win on the Dana White Contender Series. Starts his career off 8-0-1, sorry, but he's 3-2 in his last 5, getting knocked out twice. Trains out of American Top Team as well, his style. He's a very good control wrestler that's recently been more willing to just kind of open up on top position, deal more ground and pound, try and advance through guard, find submissions and things like that, as opposed to just being more control heavy. He does have a really bad chin, and the durability concerns mixed with what is pretty mediocre striking is a really bad recipe when he's not able to secure takedowns. We've seen that in his 2 losses. That's really been kind of the recipe, in both of those losses as well. His opponent, Mateusz Rebecki, he had a huge run on the regional scene, became a champ, and defended his belt 6 times before finally getting a shot on the Contender Series. Wins, gets a UFC contract. He's 4-3 in the UFC so far. Struggling lately. He's been 1-3. But, despite being 1-3 in his last 4, he's faced really good comp. His one win in there is actually against Mytabek Orolbai, which is a pretty impressive win when you think about what he's done recently and the level of grappler that he is. His style, although he's not very skilled, he brings a lot of heart and he always comes to throw down. Super entertaining fighter, always looks to scrap. He is very durable and does have pretty good anti-grappling as well. My prediction for the fight, I do think Mateusz Rebecki will win via unanimous decision. Rebecki's another underdog at plus 140. I think I've picked like a fair amount of underdogs throughout this card. I don't know. I feel really good about this card, but I guess, we'll see when we'll see. But Rebecki is the underdog at plus 140. The fight to go the distance at minus 120 is a pretty good bet as well. Neither of these guys are big time finishers either. What Rebecki was able to do against Orolbai and the scrappy kind of mentality that he brings on the feet, I think it's just a really bad matchup for Grant Dawson. I think Grant Dawson is really good, and one of the better guys outside the rankings at lightweight. it's just, I think it's a bad matchup. So I got Matej Rebecca getting this done as the underdog too. So good value here. Now, like many, when this fight was announced, I looked at it and said, that makes no sense. That matchmaking, there's nothing. I mean, that makes no sense. However, I will acknowledge that this is an absolute banger and will be super fun. Joel Alvarez versus Yaroslav Amosov. Joel Alvarez, he went 15-1 as a lightweight, joins the UFC, loses his debut, but proceeds to go 7-1. All wins come by finish. Moves up to 170 for his most recent fight. Wins a decision against Vicente Luque pretty dominantly, but doesn't get the finish. His style, he has the chin to take one and give one, and usually ends up landing the more damaging of blows, but questionable power transition from 155 to 170 for sure. Loves the jump knee. Very good jiu-jitsu base. Makes him useful on the ground as well. Really well-rounded guy. Super fun to watch for sure as well. His opponent, Yaroslav Amosov, he had a huge run on the regional scene. Became a champ outside the UFC in Bellator. Was one of the best welterweights really outside of the UFC. Had a record of 28-1. Only lost more recently, I guess a couple years ago. Joins the UFC, debuted back in December, and submitted Neil Magny in round one, which that is tough to do for sure, especially against a guy like Neil Magny. His style, very high level grappler, does a great job of getting to the hips, securing his grip, and securing takedowns. He has a very good anaconda choke. Just seamlessly seems to work through people's guard, pass through into side control, achieve mount, things like that. Stand up is fine. Definitely lacks speed and accuracy in that department. My prediction for the fight, I'm going with Joel Alvarez to win this one by decision. But if I'm being honest, I got no idea. You know, your guys' prediction based off what I gave you is as good as mine. Um, the things I worry about here, I think Joel Alvarez being more welcoming to the grappling and kind of just accepting bad positions, maybe trying to go for certain submissions, work off his back. That definitely worries me as well. He should not be doing that. He should be trying to keep the fight standing, which is what I think he will do. Like I said, I'm not confident in this at all. Joel Alvarez money line is plus 145. So he's the underdog as well. Like I said, I'm picking a lot of underdogs. We'll see. I do like Joel Alvarez. I'm not super confident. I think he'll outpoint him. It'll be a close decision. Maybe we'll see a split or majority. Um, you know, but regardless, this fight is going to be very fun and very competitive. Some more prospect propaganda here as we round out the prelims by the UFC. Ateba Gautier versus Ozzy Diaz. Ateba Gautier, he went 4-1 on the regional scene in Africa, gets a round 2 knockout on the Contender Series. Since then, he's been a complete can crusher. The UFC's just been feeding him nobodies. He's gone 4-0. Looked more human in his most recent fight that did not end in a round 1 knockout, but other than that, he's just been running through everybody because that has become one of the more well-known prospects, I guess you could say, in the UFC. His style, he's just an absolute specimen. I mean, good Lord, look at him. He's 6'4" as a middleweight. Don't know if he's really that tall, but listed to that tall, still really young. And although he's very powerful, the striking can become basic and predictable. We saw it in his most recent fight against somebody that slipped, the name is slipping my mind, but he kind of didn't drag him into round 3. Ateba was definitely the aggressor the majority of the entire fight. He had a 10-8 round in round 1. Sat him down in every single round as well. But because the fight lasted 15 minutes, we did definitely see what looked to be fairly conventional striking. And it did look predictable at times. I guess it's not really a knock on him. I think it's just because we haven't seen this happen before. He wasn't used to fighting 15 minutes. So we'll see how much that changes everything. His opponent, Ozzy Diaz, went 7-1 on the regional scene, got a shot in the Contender Series, lost to Joe Pyfer, got knocked out by Joe Pyfer, actually in Contender Series, wins 2 more fights on the regional scene, gets a UFC contract. He's 1-1 in the UFC so far. His style, he likes to strike from range, pop the jab a lot. That's definitely his best weapon. Does leave himself very open to counter strikes. So, if you let him hang around, he can be a problem. He has good endurance. Like I said, he'll keep a good pace, but he does get hit quite a bit. My prediction for the fight, I do think Ateba Gautier will win via round 1 knockout, and that's really the only thing that's worth betting on in this entire fight. Ateba's such a big favorite. Ozzy Diaz, not that he's, I mean, he's just not worth betting on at all. Really, the only thing that's worth betting on is Ateba to win via knockout in round one, which is still minus 160. So we'll see. Should be fun. Hopefully, Ateba adds to another highlight. And then hopefully, once Ateba wins, he will get somebody, like Marvin Vittori or, somebody that's not a complete can in the middleweight division. We're kicking off the main card with the Unction Part 2. King Green versus Jeremy Stephens. King Green, he's an experienced UFC vet, almost 30 fights in the promotion. Was at one point a really good fighter in the rankings. I think he was like up to 4 or 6 or something like that. Then he looked washed, and now he's just kind of proven, Unk still got it. He's winning fights now. His style, he has elite distance management. Point style striker, kind of, just has a really tricky stance. He fights with his hands down at his side. Like I said, elite distance management will really frustrate his opponents with his ability to outland and, like I said, out point strike them. Spams that NPC emote all the time, but he's winning now, so I guess it's fine. His opponent, Jeremy Stephens, who the fuck is this guy? But like, actually, that's actually Jeremy Stephens. If you've seen that clip, that's actually him. He was always more of a fun fighter than he was, or more of an entertaining and fun fighter than he was a skilled fighter, even in the UFC. His last UFC win comes all the way back in 2018. He's actually been in bare knuckle MMA for the last 3 fights. The UFC signs him back to the UFC roster for this fight. I'm cool with it. He did miss weight by 4 pounds though, so we'll see if that plays any factor in anything. Jeremy Stephens style, like I said, he's always been more fun than anything. He's a powerful boxer. He is getting older, losing a lot of speed, but the power is still there. His stamina and grappling resistance are both fading heavily for sure. My prediction for the fight, I do think King Green will win via round 3 knockout. Green money line at minus 325 is fair. If you're looking for a more high value bet, Jeremy Stephens knockout plus 425. I just don't think Jeremy Stephens will be able to touch King Green. He moves so well. And against somebody like Jeremy Stephens, that's, like I said, not very fast anymore, it's tough. The thing that Jeremy Stephens still has though, regardless, is his power. So, his path to victory is just going to try and be to land and find that one shot. King Green is catchable, especially with his stance and how he fights. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but yeah, I think King Green will just kind of toy with him over the course of 3 rounds, honestly. And then late we'll be able to find a finish. He's a big favorite for a reason. I think he'll get it done. Next up, we got Joaquin Buckley versus Sean Brady. Sean Brady went undefeated, 10-0 on the regional scene, signed with the UFC in 2019, and since then he's just built his way up to become one of the better contenders at welterweight. He's consistently been in the top. He's only ever lost in the UFC twice. That to Bilal Muhammad, the former champ, and Michael Morales, the undefeated guy who's probably going to look for a title shot here soon. Got knocked out by Morales in round 1 of his most recent fight, though, at UFC 322. The style of Sean Brady, he's a very compact and powerful guy. He's undersized for sure, but he kind of uses that in a way to naturally leverage himself with his grappling. He uses it to find and secure takedowns. Then once he finds those takedowns, because he's so compactly built, he's able to sit a lot way heavier on top. He does have submission ability for sure, but he's a tough guy to scramble with just because he sits so heavily. On the feet, he's very sloppy. Overall, bad movement skills, but only strikes to initiate grappling anyways. Joaquin Buckley's opponent, he signs with the UFC back in 2020 after going 10-2. Struggled a bit in the first couple years of his career. He lost to some pretty good opponents. Was known for that spinning back head kick, like threw a body kick, it got caught, and then he threw like the spinning back head kick. Super flashy KO highlight. That's what Joaquin Buckley kind of made his name off of. He's had really good fights outside of that, but that's just kind of been his big highlight claim to fame moment, I guess. Hit a 5-fight win streak, and then that all came to a screeching halt in his last fight last summer against Kamaru Usman, where he kind of just got wrestle fucked pretty bad. His style, big time power puncher. He can really turn the lights off, especially when he connects with the hooks that he likes to throw. Got exposed badly for his takedown defense, though, in his most recent fight against Kamaru Usman. His inability to defend takedowns, and then his inability to scramble as well. Even Colby Covington had some success against him when he'd look for takedowns. My prediction for the fight, I've been back and forth on this, but I do think Sean Brady will win via unanimous decision. Buckley won't need to stop a lot of takedowns. He'll only need to stuff one or two just to give himself a shot on the feet, because I really think with the power that Buckley has and the lack of striking technicality that Sean Brady has, if Joaquin Buckley is able to land and force exchanges, he'll be just fine. But Joaquin Buckley hasn't really shown that he can do that against high level elite grapplers. And so I think Sean Brady will find, especially with Sean Brady's last fight and going the way it did, people were kind of criticizing him for not shooting in for takedowns. I just think Sean Brady's going to immediately try and find a takedown, be more relentless with the grappling, and Joaquin Buckley really won't be able to do it. I think he'll probably wrestle fuck him as well and cruise to a decision win. Brady's the favorite here at minus 170. Makes sense to me. That sounds about right. A Buckley KO, though, at plus 250. That's really the only way I see this fight going. Two ways. I see it going Brady decision or Joaquin Buckley KO. So if you can double chance that, good on you. Do that. But I think we'll probably see a boring one in this one. The feature bout on the card, Alexander Volkov versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Alexander Volkov, he joined the UFC in 2016, and since then he's just been one of the best heavyweights in the world. He was on his way to rematch Tom Aspinall, a guy who beat him earlier in his career, but then got robbed really badly. I mean, clear as day against Cyril Gane. Had to then fight Jailton Almeida. Had a really close, questionable fight with Jailton Almeida, but came out on top with that one. And now he's going to be fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta. His style, he's absolutely huge. He's listed at 6'7". People think that he's north of that at 6'8" or 6'9". He has an 80-inch reach, makes him a super tricky puzzle to solve. He has elite level kickboxing, but he's a complete fighter as well. He has grappling skill. Like I said, he's just truly one of the best heavyweights in the world. Waldo Cortez Acosta's opponent, he went 6-0 in the regional scene, gets a UFC contract after getting a KO win on the Dana White Contender Series, fought 5 times in 2025, ending on this crazy run after losing to Pavlovich, defeated Derek Lewis via banana peel slip in his most recent fight at UFC 324. Now he's looking to take on, I mean, this is a huge step up for him as well. He's one of the best contenders at heavyweight for sure, but this is a huge step up. His style, he's a really quick boxer, elite footwork and hand speed for a heavyweight. He also used to be a baseball pitcher. He didn't play for the Cincinnati Reds, but he was with the Cincinnati Reds organization, which I did not know until recently. But he has excellent KO power. Does best when he's blitzing and using his speed and footwork to kind of enter and then, pull back out. He struggles in more tame technical fights, though. Where he thrives and does his best work is in those fiery exchanges where he can get off, quick punches, I guess, with his hands and things like that. My prediction for the fight, I do think Alexander Volkov will win via unanimous decision. This is not a knock on Waldo Cortez Acosta. I think he is great. And there is a definite argument that there's a definite path to victory. Waldo Cortez Acosta has a huge speed advantage in this one for sure. Power, maybe. I can see it for sure. Waldo Cortez Acosta has been knocking out a bunch of people. But Volkov is so good. It is, like I said, not a knock on Waldo. It is just that I really think Alexander Volkov is this good. I wouldn't be surprised if Volkov implemented some grappling, something that Waldo Cortez Acosta isn't really used to. And yeah, I just think we've got a Volkov masterclass inbound. I like the significant strikes over. I like the takedowns over. And I like the money line at minus 170. I think it's great value. So yeah, I think Volkov will get this one done via unanimous decision. The co-main event, Tatsuro Taira versus Joshua Van. This is a fight that I'm personally looking forward to the most. This is going to be so much fun. This is an absolute banger at flyweight. The youngest title fight, I think, ever. Joshua Van is 24. Joshua Van's 24 years old, and Tatsuro Taira is 26 years old. So two really young, really talented guys in flyweight. This is going to be super fun one. Joshua Van, he gets KO'd by Charles Johnson and then kind of works his way back up in the rankings. He has a fight of the year with Royval, and then wins the belt from Pantoja because of that fluke elbow injury. Only began training MMA 6 years ago, though. He's relatively new to the sport, but he is super talented. His style, he's an incredibly talented boxer with great hand speed, accuracy, combinations, and he's still getting better. Like I said, in the past, he's displayed high-level takedown defense. Has a couple of submission wins as well, but fairly undersized though. Even as a flyweight, he's only 5'5". He is at a significant reach disadvantage in this one and height disadvantage. His opponent Tatsuro Taira came into the UFC 10-0, rolled his way straight to the top of the rankings, had a razor close war with Brandon Royval. Loses that fight, kind of sets him back a little bit. Then he bounces back, beats Mir Albazi, I think. Gets 2 finishes in a row. Now he's getting a title shot at 26 years old. Was actually scheduled to fight Joshua Van before the fight fell through and got canceled. Now we get to actually see that unfold. Tatsuro Taira style. He's an absolutely mauling, super high IQ grappler. He's been training MMA. It's kind of the opposite. He has been training MMA for a very long time, since he was very young. He has the incredible ability to take the opponent's back and transition, achieve the body lock, and just work from his opponent's back. Striking is improving, but it's still pretty just above average. It's not average. It's still above average, but it's just above average, which is not going to be at the level of Joshua Van's. His cardio has looked questionable before. It's kind of on and off. There were rounds against the Royval fight where it looked like he might be fading, but he ended up doing just fine. My prediction for the fight. Oh, man. I think Tatsuro Taira will win via submission in round 2. Taira struggled with Royval a lot, but I think that was a lot more to do with the length and reach of Royval than it was the actual striking aspect of everything. Van is someone that also has to fight forward a ton because he's undersized. And that's not going to work very well for him, I think, in this one. Because he has to be moving forward so much to do his best work, that's just going to play into what Tatsuro Taira wants to do, which is take the fight to the ground. The reach disadvantage, too, is pretty big for Joshua Van. I just see Taira taking the back and finding a submission. I think Taira sub at plus 205 is a great bet. Of Joshua Van decision, if you can double chance those two outcomes, I think that's a really good, a great bet to place, because those are the two most likely outcomes for each fighter. Taira moneyline at minus 175. This is going to be an absolute banger. Like I said, I'm super excited for this one, but I do think Tatsuro Taira will win via submission in round 2. Here we go. The main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. Khamzat Chimaev comes into the UFC 4-0 as a welterweight. Then he moves up to middleweight after constantly battling health issues. Almost died to the fucking common cold. Cruises his way to the title shot, dominates DDP in one of the most dominant title fights we've ever seen, honestly. Became champ at UFC 319. Now he's defending his belt for the first time. His style, he's the pound-for-pound best grappler in the UFC. Has submission ability, but is also perfectly content controlling from top position like we saw in the DDP fight. So strong. The sub game is so nasty. His stand-up's pretty average, but who cares? His ability to find and secure these takedowns, the quickness that he does it with, the raw strength that he has, it's just absurd. He, like I said, is the pound-for-pound best grappler in the UFC. His opponent, Sean Strickland, came in the UFC undefeated in 2012, was always a really good fighter, and then kind of just turned the corner, became a top contender, upset Izzy to become the champion of the middleweight division. One of the biggest upsets in title fight history, I think, in the UFC. Loses to DDP twice. Then he beats loses to DDP, beats Paulo Costa, loses to DDP again. Now he's fighting Fluffy Hernandez, and he's getting his third title shot because of it. His style, he just walks down his opponents, throws jabs, front kicks, teep kicks. Great stamina, great takedown defense, and is a BJJ black belt despite never using it. His striking defense, though, and just the striking IQ is super high level. He's one of the best strikers. It just he doesn't have that KO. He's not a super big power puncher, so it's tough. It's easy to underrate him, but he is one of the best strikers in the UFC for sure. We'll see, though. My prediction for the fight, I do think Khamzat Chimaev will submit him in round 1. Sadly, I'd like to see Chimaev disappear forever, and maybe we could have some fun again in middleweight, but Chimaev sub-decision minus 230, that's kind of a given. It'll raise the odds for what I think is an inevitable win from Chimaev, under 2.5 rounds at minus 210 as well. I think this is going to be worse than the DDP fight, and not in like the dominate. Like I think it's I don't know if I guess if you would consider it worse, but like I think he's just gonna run through Sean Strickland, and I don't want to see that happen. Sean Strickland has really good takedown defense historically, but this is just another level of grappling that we're dealing with in Khamzat Chimaev. He's so strong. I mean, DDP was like he was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the UFC, and it looked like okay, he might be having to go up to 205 soon because there's nobody left in middleweight. And then here comes Khamzat Chimaev. Like I said, completely dominated him. It's just tough to think that anything else is going to happen. I think anybody predicting anything else other than a Khamzat win is more so wishful thinking. So yeah, I think Chimaev will win via round one submission. It'll be a fun build-up. It's been a fun build-up. These guys hate each other, or at least they're acting like it. But when it comes, when it comes time to be in the octagon, I don't think it's going to be much of a fight, sadly. To recap everything, I'm picking a lot of underdogs this week. I don't know why. The odds aren't making a lot of sense in my mind, and usually that does not bode well for me. But I feel really good about this week. I felt really good about last week, and we did pretty well last week. I didn't get to make a recap, but felt really good last week. Parlay-wise, I like Volkov, Tyra, King Green, Pat Sabatini, and Jose Ochoa. All those guys I'm super confident in money line-wise. There wasn't a ton of – I mean, you can go through fight by fight and find a lot of things that make a lot of sense and are really good value. But in terms of parlay-wise and pick-wise, I like all those. I would have liked to incorporate some other bets in there like distance and stuff like that. But those I feel really good about. High value-wise, Van Decision, Tyra Sub. Not Green money line. That's a mistake. But Stevens KO, Roman Kopylov money line, and a Santos decision at plus 1,400, I think is the best high value straight as well. There could be some crazy shit that happens. Like I said, I'm picking a lot of underdogs, and I think those just as straight bets alone carry tons of great value, especially Joel Alvarez. I didn't put that there because it's a super 50-50. You can go either way. Joel Alvarez is another great bet, but yeah, there's tons of great value on the card. Try and find some. Hopefully you can use this to navigate that. Throw together whatever you want based off of this. This is all the stuff that I really like, though. It's going to be really fun this entire week. It's a great card. There's fun fights. You should watch the entire card. Turn it on at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock whenever it starts. Watch all the prelims. Watch it all. It's going to be a super fun card, especially the co-main event and main event. It's got a lot of build up to it, and the UFC's kind of been lacking that. But this, like I said, this card it's got it. This card has got it. It feels, and everything just like it feels good this week. Hopefully it doesn't get fucked up, but it could. And that's just how MMA goes sometime. To recap the picks, because I haven't done this in a while, overall I'm 109-47. Not great. Had a good week last week. Only missed on a couple picks. Main events I'm 8-4. Fight night events I'm 67-36, and numbered events I'm 32-12. Not all these picks you will see on my YouTube channel. I post picks on my Snapchat story. Probably should post them on Twitter as well, but that's where all this is coming from. I didn't pick the Yusuf Zalal and Aljamain Sterling card because I didn't want to, and it was a boring card. But I'll pick everything. Might take next week off for picks. We'll see. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. It's a super fun card. Watch the entire thing. Let me know what you guys are placing. Hopefully I do super well. I will make a recap video for this week because it is a numbered card. And yeah, so much fun. I hope you guys watch the entire thing. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you hopefully in a couple days. See ya.